We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Oh, man. Okay, so you guys just missed the best freaking thing I ever said. I got to do this over again now, okay? My bad. You know what happens? I get into, I'm sorry, I apologize. I get into, I've got to change my, what a Mercury Retrograde moment, fuck. I'm sorry. All right, I got to take this from the top now, okay? I have to take this from the top because I just laid out. I don't know if I can do it again. I'm going to try. Okay, so my apologies for not being on for the first half hour. That sucks. You know what I do? I'll tell you what I do. I hit a kill button, okay, on my audio when I play a track, so then I can go and click online so you don't hear that clicking. All right, and sometimes I forget. All right, let's take this from the top. All right, here we go. So today's subject is Egypt. And what I just talked about for the last half an hour is what's happening in Egypt and how it relates astrologically to Saturn. All right. And I've got to, man, I was on a roll. Shit. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can do it again. Okay, if you go back in time and you look at where Egypt was when it first started off. Okay, and when I say first started off, we're talking about the first iteration of Egypt. And that takes place right here. Here we go. The first iteration of Egypt really takes place on July 9th, 1805. By the way, I apologize for the audio being off. After doing this for 4 years, you'd think I'd know that all I need to do is click a button. Anyway. All right, so on July 9th in 1805, this is when Egypt has its first kind of modern, for lack of a better term, form of governance and social organization. The only other date in Wikipedia that shows up is 3200 BC. 3200 BC. So from 3200 BC to the 9th of July in 1805 is quite a stretch. So this is kind of like the first formation of anything formal with Egypt. Okay, so let's go back to 1805, all right? Let's go all the way back to 1805. Here we go. Right there, okay. So when we go to July 9th, by the way, just a few days off of July 4th, the birthday of the United States. On July 9th, 1805, we look at, okay, so if we look at a planet, one planet that would describe sort of the karmic importance or the karmic angle or aspect of somebody's chart, what would that planet be? Well, it'd be Saturn, wouldn't it? I mean, that's where we go, right? And then we look at the sign that that planet is in. And in this case, on July 9th, in 1805, Saturn was in the sign of Libra. So here, in the first kind of formation iteration of a quote-unquote modern government, this isn't even really a modern government, this is like a caliphate, right? This is where a sheik is basically running Egypt. It's a dynasty. So at that point in time, Saturn was in Libra by 10 degrees. 10 degrees. Now there's also Uranus in Libra as well. Okay, but what we're seeing here, and pay close attention to this, Saturn becomes a major player in the history of Egypt. Now Jupiter is in Scorpio. Pay attention to this as well, because this is going to be very interesting as we flesh all of this out a little bit later. Venus is in Cancer, and Mercury is in Cancer, and the Sun is in Cancer. So in 1805, you know, what we're looking at here is really the foundation of something that has, you know, life, nurturing, sustenance, family. It's all kind of, you know, woven into this loosely knit sort of tapestry of an early government for Egypt. Okay? And the reason I'm talking about Egypt right now is because it's really important. And hopefully you'll be able to see this over the course of the next half hour or so. All right? So just pay attention. Hang in there. Again, I'm sorry that we didn't have the audio up. That's my fault. That's on me. But we also have, at that time, there's the true node, and then there's the south node, or north node, and Chiron. They're all in Capricorn, and they're all opposing the Egyptian sun in Cancer. So at some point, we know, based on this opposition, that it would not hold. That at some point, the corporate entities would come into play in Egypt, that there would be more of a sense of hierarchy, and it would not be in the best interest of Egypt to some extent because of where Chiron is. So we have this heavily loaded, oh, by the way, Black Moon Lilith was also at 0 degrees Capricorn. So we have this major opposition taking place in July 1805. And then we have also Saturn in Libra and Uranus in Libra kind of in the middle. It's a T-squared. So this center could not hold. And it doesn't hold because the English come in and create their own quote-unquote protectorate of Egypt. And then they hold that. The English held that for quite a while. But on the 28th of February in 1922, the 28th of February 1922, the Egyptians begin to disentangle themselves from English rule. And guess what? Guess where Saturn was? If you said Libra, you'd be absolutely 100% correct. Okay? 100% correct. And so we go to January 28th, right there, in 1922. That is the year, just to make sure on that. It is February 28th, my bad. February 28th, 1922. So let's just move ahead. There it is, February 28th, 1922. So there's Saturn in Libra, 6 degrees. Jupiter in Libra, right? That's at 17 degrees. So there's a wide Saturn and Jupiter conjunction. And then the true node now is in Libra. So here we have a country that is really trying to assert its independence with Libra running through this day, right? Mercury's in Aquarius. It was direct. It's a good aspect to commemorate the dawn of a new day. Venus is Pisces. It's exalted. There's a greater sense of hope for the future. Mars in Sagittarius gives a shot of sovereignty and righteousness to the whole affair. There's Moon in Pisces. There's Sun in Pisces. Maybe not necessarily the best aspect, but it's certainly mystical and religious. And at that point, I'm sure that we could probably look back and see where there's a great deal of interest being taken in the pyramids. I think this is also right around the same time, maybe a little bit later, where Crowley actually goes to Egypt and climbs into the Great Pyramid and spends his wedding night there, and invokes Aiwass. So the whole mystical tradition of Egypt comes back into play during this time. Mystical tourism really takes off, after this disentanglement from the English takes place. But again, it's Saturn in Libra. It's a desire to have, relationships based on some form of equality. And with the true node there, conjuncting Saturn, it could not be any clearer that this is what this country would want. Now, what's interesting is that Chiron is at 11 degrees Aries. And if we look at where where Uranus is right now, it is actually conjuncting this Chiron from the 1922 date, which is a very revolutionary aspect. We'll get into that as we move forward here. Pluto is at 8 degrees in Cancer, which is very, very powerful, because we need to keep in mind, where is Jupiter right now? Jupiter is in Cancer, and it's at the early stages. I think it's at 2 degrees today, 2 or 3 degrees. I have to check the ephemeris. But we've got Jupiter in Cancer, and it is going to be conjuncting this Pluto from February 1922, very shortly, which would posit a very profound transformation for this country. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. Now, this is when they get to say, okay, we're Egyptians, we're a new country, we get to govern ourselves. And that goes on for a while, okay? But there's another iteration that takes place. And the next one is, so they declared their independence, and now they want to be a republic. Now they want to be a republic. And that takes place on June 18th, 1953. June 18th, 1953. What happens then? Where is Saturn? Where is our friend Saturn on June 18th, 1953? Well, we look it up, and there it is, 20 degrees Libra. This is, okay, every time there's a major change in the history of Egypt and its policies and its government, it's Saturn in Libra. They're trying to find balance between the past and the present. They're trying to find balance between governance and personal freedoms and rights. This is an amazing thread that's running through the evolution of this country. If we continue to roll with that date, right, the 18th, let's see, Mars at that point in time, let's go back here. Let's just make sure I have the right date. It's the 18th, and Mars at that time is in Cancer. It's at 2 degrees Cancer. So Jupiter, transiting Jupiter, is on top of the natal Mars when they first declared themselves to be a republic. This is actually pretty mind-blowing stuff. So it's expanding their desire and their will to have their own kind of sovereign domain, to be connected to family and nurturing and being able to eat and produce goods and all that stuff. Jupiter is expanding that. So this is a major transit for that aspect. Jupiter, Cancer, and Libra show up again and again and again throughout the history of Egypt. We looked at the June 18th date. Again, we have Mercury. Where is it? It's in Cancer. So there's this desire to have this connection by the people with that place that is sustainable. It's sustenance, right? And I'm going to kind of get into the evolutionary pattern of Egypt here and why it's important in a second. But if you look at it, these are people that are right now fighting and some ways dying for food. It's a very Cancerian kind of thing, right? And ever since the Islamic Brotherhood, or the Muslim Brotherhood, has been put into power, it has been very difficult for people to get any kind of stabilized sort of goods and services. And some people are saying, well, give them time, let them do it. This was a democratically elected government. I'm not sure it was democratically elected. I wasn't there. I don't know. People say it is. I'm not sure. What were their choices? I don't know. Few and far between, likely. And most elections are rigged. And the Muslim Brotherhood was put into place. The Muslim Brotherhood was put into place by this administration and by the G8 to run Egypt. And if the Muslim Brotherhood gets extracted from Egypt, it is a major blow, an absolutely major blow to what's taking place in North Africa and the Middle East. Because they're trying to do the same thing with Syria, and they've tried to do something similar with Libya, and they're failing. The difference between Libya and Egypt is numbers. There's a lot more people in Egypt than there are in Libya. Cairo is one of the biggest cities in the world. So what we have here is we have not just a group of people deciding that this extreme, super conservative, proto-medieval type of governance is not to their liking. It's more than that. It's them rejecting the way that that government got there. And that's a very powerful message. Now, if we go forward and we get into the latest iteration, January 25th, 2011, not long ago, guess what? What are we looking at again? We're Saturn. It's in Libra. And at this point in time, they're going towards a more Aquarian sort of bent to the government, revolutionary, radical. That's what Aquarius is. But Chiron's in Aquarius at 29 degrees here. So it's very difficult for them to hold that kind of center. If you're going to have a revolution and install a government, 29 degrees Chiron Aquarius is not the best time to do it at the anaretic degree. But what we do have here is we have Saturn again. Saturn again, and it's where? It's in Libra. And it's just stationary. The next day, in the 26th, it goes retrograde. So what do we have? We have the markings of a revolution that really would not take, right? Because of the state, it's deeply in the shadow of Mercury retrograde. So this was kind of doomed. This was doomed to fail at some point. That's the fact. Jupiter here is at 0 degrees Aries. So there was that very revolutionary energy taking place at that time. And we have Uranus in Aries right now, which is really firing this. Now, why is this important? Okay, it's important for a number of reasons. The first of which I just talked about. We have a group of people that are basically pushing back on the internationalist community, saying, we don't want this. Obama came out yesterday and backed the Morsi government. And he says that this is not an acceptable solution. So when Obama says that, then what we're seeing here is something very counter to what the program is. This is a major, major monkey wrench in everything. Now, why is it important besides that? Well, because if you look at it, right, Cancer is a very interesting symbol because Cancer represents home. It represents roots and it represents home. And if you look at Egypt, it is theoretically the place where it all started. Everything that we have pretty much from the modern era comes from the Fertile Crescent and Egypt. Astronomy, agronomy, architecture, agriculture, it's all there. It's all in Egypt. This is the cradle of civilization. Post-Atlantis, post-Lemuria, Egypt is where it all starts. Obviously, you've got, the Mesopotamians, and you've got the Phoenicians, and Assyrians. You've got a whole other group of people, in the Middle East. But Egypt is that place. Egypt is the birthplace of it all. And what happens is that culture then, goes, in fact, if you look at some of the bloodlines, some of the bloodlines that people really pay attention to, there are bloodlines that can be traced back to Amenhotep, and it's through Bush and all these people, if you can believe that. So again, we can see the importance of Egypt, not just from its impact on society, culture, and the things that we use for tools in our world, but also how it impacts, these quote-unquote world leaders and the importance that they place on their connection to Egypt. So then we go from Egypt, and then we go to Greece, which is the next stop on the tour of consciousness and culture. And then we have Rome, and then Rome does a little bit of a back dance to Egypt as well. It grabs some interesting artifacts and plays a large role at that time in Egypt. Ptolemy was Roman, and he becomes the first. He becomes the first astrologer, really, in the West. Again, using Egyptian astrology as his guide. So we have the Roman Empire with the Egyptian empires. We have the Greek Empire. We have the Roman Empire. And then we have the empires of Western Europe, which begin to root and take place after the fall of the Roman Empire. We have the Holy Roman Empire with the Vatican and the Pope, plays a large role. Then we have Germany, we have England and Spain, right? These are all the players and the rise and expansion of quote-unquote culture in the West. And it's all moving from Egypt, right? It's all moving from Egypt. And then from there, it crosses the Atlantic. And it goes to the colonies. And it goes to New York and the rise of the cities of America and industrialization. This is where industrialization takes place. And then we have this movement west. And it goes all the way across the country, right? And then it ends in California. And California, to me, is the zenith of Western culture. And the reason it's the zenith of Western culture is because so much takes place in California. It's a concrescence of everything. There's an amazing mixture of races in California. And for the most part, you could throw maybe Seattle and Portland there, but I'm talking California. For the most part, different cultures and races get along really well in California. I grew up in San Jose, California. I grew up in a racially mixed area. We never had any problems. This is to me is what California is about. It is the melting pot of the American dream. Not only that, California is the home of movies and cinema and broadcast. Again, these are all the mediums of the 20th century that inform not just America, but the world. And then we have the rise of the technological culture, Silicon Valley, Apple, Hewlett-Packard, again, all in California. If you want to move it up the coast a little bit, you could go to Seattle, Washington, and Microsoft. Again, it's a West Coast kind of deal, even in terms of sexual relations, San Francisco, it is the heartbeat of same-sex relations. So it is really music. How many great bands come from California? Food, it's all there. California is it. California is the peak of the West. And then what happens is that in the 1970s, everything, even before the 1970s, you have the Marshall Plan with the Japanese. And you had the reinvestment in industrial infrastructure in Japan, right? And at that point in time, it really wasn't about, taking care of the Japanese who we blew out. It was really an economic move by the United States to get goods made cheaper somewhere else. And if you were around in the 70s, what did you have? You had a stereo. What did you have connected to the stereo? You had a turntable. What did you have connected to that turntable and that stereo? You had speakers. And if you were lucky, you had a dual cassette deck where you could record off of your turntable, but you could also dub tapes. And where were all these components from? They were from Japan, right? If you had a TV, where was it from? Japan. If you had a refrigerator or washer and dryer, where were they from? Japan. Japan had more money in the 70s and the 80s than almost any country on the planet. They were flush with cash. If you wanted to get a car or you had a car in your driveway, where was it from? Well, likely Japan. You had a motorcycle, where was that from? It was from Japan. They were doing everything better than everyone else and doing it cheaper. And this is where everything shifted to Japan during the 70s and the 80s, really the 80s. It was all Japan. But now we don't really buy stereos too much anymore, do we? No. And a lot of these products that we're getting now, whether it's the computer that I'm using or the one that you're listening to me on, they come from China, and that's the next wave, you see. That is the absolute next wave. And that lasted really until, I think, the late 2000s. because Japan is in decline. I don't know if you know that or not, but they've reached their peak. And the reason why they've reached their peak, or how I know they've reached their peak, because if you go to a Target or a Marshall's or Costco or Walmart, and you go to find a piece of clothing to buy, look at that label. Look at where it's from. It's not from Japan. 7 out of 10 times, it's probably, or sorry, China. It's not from China. 7 out of 10 times, I'm betting now that it's from places like Sri Lanka or Indonesia or Yemen or Turkey or Belize. It's because goods are becoming too expensive to produce in China. So now we're seeing all these little satellite countries begin to produce clothing for the world. To me, that's an indication that China is on the descent, that they have reached a saturation point where their manufacturing their cheap goods are not as cheap anymore. So they've got to, that model for them has to move. They've got to become internalized and become a consumer-based economy, which is tricky for China, because for them to do that, they have to move their people into capitalism and materialism, and in which case they may not have the same ideological hold over them. So China's in a tricky place culturally, but we're talking about Egypt, okay? So now if China's in decline, where is that wave headed? Where's it headed? Maybe it's headed in Kazakhstan. Maybe it's stopped there. But I'm saying right now, I'm betting that that wave that started in Egypt and went through all these different places, went to the United States, skipped the ocean, I'm betting that that wave is now in Egypt. And that we are now at the place where we started from. That this is what this represents. That Cancer, Jupiter and Cancer, takes us back to that original place. That place, that oasis of culture, of magic, of art, of literature, of governance, of tyranny too. Because let's face it, I'm sure there were some very dark periods in Egypt. Let's not beat around the bush. It was not a panacea for utopia, although I'm sure there were times that it was. But this is what is important. I believe everything has come all the way around the planet. And we're right there, right back at the source, right back at the center where it all began. And that's why what's happening there right now is very important. And not only is it important for them, but again, we don't necessarily, see, I also think that this is connected to the Grand Water Trine. You know, people, like some astrologers, were poo-pooing the Grand Water Trine. Oh, it's not a big deal. It's that square. It's that square between Pluto and Uranus. And that's a big deal. It's getting played out. It's getting played out right now in Egypt, right? Uranus and Aries is like, hey, we're going to push back on Pluto and Capricorn. We don't want this, right? So yes, it's a big deal. But this Grand Trine, the Grand Water Trine, surging, roiling, bubbling, right? The wave is here, and the wave is taking place right now. Right now, we don't understand how this wave is going to impact everyone. We just don't. We can't. We don't have the perspective. We can't. We for all of our expansion and all of our insight and all of our ability to see whatever, remote viewing, we can't really understand how this is going to impact the rest of the planet. We can't. But it's going to. Trust me. It is going to affect people. And not only is it going to affect people, but I'm going to go on record and say it's already impacted other situations in a very big way. For instance, again, if we look at what's happening with Syria, which is horrible, by the way, and them wanting to throw the Muslim Brotherhood in as a stopgap government or a new default government for the Syrian people, if the MB falls, and it will in Egypt, then it has no chance, zero chance of succeeding in Egypt. So at that point, Syria. So at that point in time, NATO is up shit creek without a paddle in terms of who they're going to install there. That's a big vacuum, a big void, and it could change. It could change in a huge way what takes place in Syria and how that goes down, and also Iran as a result. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at potentially what's happening as staving off World War III. Just like I think what took place in Turkey distracted the powers that be in Turkey and Erdogan, what's happening in Syria, this whole thing that's taking place in Egypt right now is a huge monkey wrench in terms of anything relating to World War III. This is enormous. This is yet another country that is throwing a major cosmic wrinkle in everything, and I think it's really important. And what's also interesting is that if you look at, again, all of Saturn and Libra that we've tracked from the first time that Egypt decides, hey, we're going to have a caliphate, we're going to have a dynasty ruled by a sheikh, going back to 1805, we see Saturn and Libra running through all of this. Well, where's Saturn now? Saturn now is in Scorpio, right? And Libra is a cardinal sign, and Scorpio is a fixed sign. So if the Egyptians can somehow pull this off and remove Morsi and have a new government, then it's going to be Saturn in Scorpio, which means it's fixed. That maybe they have fixed their issue or fixed their problem. It's not cardinal anymore. It is like a seal. And Scorpio relates to legacy. It relates to our roots, and not just our familial roots, but our deep genetic roots and where we come from. And Saturn is all about solidifying them. So here with Saturn in Scorpio, if it does take place during this time, and I do think it will, in some ways it is, I think, really important for the rest of the planet, because it reminds us of this place of grandeur and mystery and source and origin where I think it all began. So this is an important time. And keep your eyes on it. Keep your ears open. The mainstream media is not going to want to cover this at all, because these people are pissed off, and they're very clear over the fact that Morsi was put in place by the leadership of this country and others. And that is not a popular message to be talked about in the mainstream media. Okay, that's essentially what I talked about for the first half hour that you didn't hear. And while I think I didn't quite capture the essence and the verb the first half hour, I think I got close. So why don't I do this? Let me play some music. Thank you again for hanging in there while I worked out my boneheaded error of not clicking on that damn thing. I'm going to get into some readings. So let me play a little bit of music, and when I come back, we'll do some readings. How does that sound? Is everybody cool with that? All right. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm Robert Phoenix, your host. And what do I want to play today? You know, just because it's really short, it's Michael Lee Hill, Testing 1, 2, 3. Let me play him to see if I can find it. It's nice and short. It's 3 minutes of scorching guitar. Michael's getting married, by the way. Congratulations to you, Michael. Here he is. I promise I will put the mic back on. Testing 1, 2, 3, Michael Lee Hill. That was Michael Hill, testing 1, 2, 3. Apparently, there's some discrepancy with the audio today, in and above the fact that I made an error at the beginning of the show by not putting my mic on. How dumb is that? Let me try to refresh this page and see what happens, because I'm about in a 45-minute loop, which is odd. So let me refresh this page, and people that are holding, I'll get to you in a second here. Let's see. Can everybody hear me now? Is it the same, or you there? Hello, 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 hello. Sounds okay. Okay, good. So this is really strange. So what I did is, what happened? No. Okay. Let's take a caller. This is scurry. Hold on. Let's take a caller. Hello there. Hello? Hello? Guess you're on hold. Let's try another caller. Hello there.
Hi.
Hi, who's this?
This is Jill.
Hey, can you hear me? I mean, have you been?
Yeah, you're fine. Perfect. Clear.
I've been having some discrepancies here today.
Yeah, it's really clear now.
Okay. Wow. What's going on, Jill?
I'm just wondering, you've read me before in the past. I'm just wondering if I'm going to have to move this year. I don't want to.
Okay. All right. What did you think of my rant there, Jill?
I thought it was very interesting. The Egypt thing about the Libra or whatever, I'm not good with details. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. When's your birthday, Jill?
December 17th, 1960.
Okay.
No, it was very fascinating, actually.
Let's see, December 17th, 1960.
7:45 a.m.
Are you going to have to move this year?
Yes. Do you need it like where I was born or where I live?
I'm just going to look at your solar chart here.
Okay.
Get a handle on that. Let me say this about that. I would say that you're going to have an opposition with Jupiter in Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn, which is in your chart, and you have Jupiter in Cancer, and you happen to have Mars at 13 degrees Cancer, and your Mars is retrograde. So Jupiter on your Mars, which would be sometime in September, could actually merit a move, to be honest with you. But the move would be better for you. Because
it would disrupt my daughter's school and everything.
Well, maybe it would be in a place that's close to you. That would be a different house that might be nicer.
I don't know how I'm going to financially do it.
Well, the only reason I bring that up is because you have Mars retrograde Cancer, and Cancer we know is home, right?
Yes.
So when Mars is retrograde in Cancer, there is in some ways in the chart a desire for that person to return to their roots or to find some place that is closer to their idea of what home is. And that's a kind of a lifelong process. When Jupiter crosses Mars, it's not a bad thing. You know, a lot of times, you also have Black Moon Lilith in Cancer as well. A lot of times, people will say, I don't know how I'm going to get the money to do this, or I don't know how this is going to happen. I did a reading for somebody a year and a half ago, and I said, you're going to get something through your father. You're going to get some money through your father. She said, well, I don't know how that's possible. My father's dead. And I said, well, I'm telling you, you're going to get some money through your father. And sure enough, a year and a half later, she tells me she got $5,000 through her father's widow. You know, it came through her father. You know, sometimes we don't always know how things can manifest or move in our lives. So if you do move, it would be during that time. And it would actually be in a place or to a place that would be much more appealing and much more comfortable, feeling much more like home. Do you live in the place that you grew up in right now?
Yeah, I do. And then my sisters are like evil bitches, and they're trying to push me out.
Mm-hmm.
They've been abusing me all my life. They take no personal responsibility for anything whatsoever, and I'm supposed to take the blame for all the problems they caused, and then I turned around and did it back to them. So now they're going to retaliate.
Okay. Well, you've got that, you've got Sun in Sagittarius, and you also have Mercury in Sagittarius, so you don't pull any punches, that's for sure. And Venus in Aquarius as well. The challenge for you is really going to be Saturn, and Saturn on your Neptune. And Saturn moves onto your Neptune. See, Saturn's at 4 degrees now, so we're talking in roughly 2 months, Saturn will be conjunct your Neptune. That's a little bit of a challenging phase and cycle, because it's kind of a freeze out period. But, at the same time, you have Jupiter, being on your Mars. So use Saturn on your Neptune as a way of being detached. That's what I would do, to try to not take things as personally with your sisters. And I know it's charged, it's family, I get it. Everybody's got issues with their family to some extent. But I would use that Saturn-Neptune conjunction to be, deeply, deeply detached and observant, while at the same time allowing for whatever it is that you need to come into your life to bring you closer to a sense of your roots and coming home, because that's what Jupiter will do. And if it's maybe it's fending these evil sisters off and staying there, or maybe it's working out a deal, and you come out on top of the deal and you get more money and you get a better place to live. I don't know how it's going to manifest, but I do know that you do have the potential to find something that is much closer to what you want and desire in terms of comfort and feeling like you actually have a home, and that is right around September for you.
So can you look at why I have such a horrible, terrible, awful family that has done nothing but torture me my whole life? I'm the youngest.
Well, I think part of it has to do with the fact that you have Chiron and Aquarius. And people that have Chiron and Aquarius, they're kind of like the animal in the litter or the animal in the pack that is considered odd. There's this whole notion or concept in wolf packs, and it's about the omega wolf. And the omega wolf is the wolf that is ostracized by the rest of the pack. And the omega wolf actually provides kind of an interesting role. Think of the omega wolf as being like a rodeo clown in some ways. They're the wolf that becomes almost like the psychic scarecrow for the pack. They break up fights, they do dumb things. But what's interesting about the omega wolf is that right after the alpha, they're the wolf that gets to eat next. So even though they are socially degraded by the pack, they play a very important role in keeping the psychic health and welfare of the pack together. But what's also interesting about the omega wolf is that it's the only wolf in the pack that also has the potential of going out on its own to start its own pack and meet another omega of the other sex, obviously, and then become the alpha. And I think Chiron and Aquarius is a lot like that. It's an oddball Chiron. It's weird. It's outside. It makes people feel uncomfortable. So I think from a psychic level, this is what's been going on with your family and with your sisters, that they were somehow in some ways picking out and picking on your specialness. But at the end of the day, you have more potential of doing something extraordinary than they do because of you're outsider. You're an outsider, Jill. And
it's like I'm the only one in my family who's right in my head, literally. No one's right in their heads.
Well, I guess that makes you an outsider.
Yes.
So I would say that that you have set this up in this lifetime to be with these people so that you could clearly define your selfhood in the midst of kind of this, what we would hold as a sacred tradition, theoretically, family, and being contrary to that. It's very hard to do. It's very difficult to do, but I think that that's what you've chosen to do. And, when you claim it and you own it, it becomes much easier. So just, fly your freak flag high, and be who you are, and don't look back. You've already gone through your Chiron return. Once you go through your Chiron return, you should answer to no one, right?
Right. I think after I leave this home, I am going to cut them all out of my life permanently. Everybody.
Are you there? Oh, isn't that interesting?
Hear me?
Yeah, you blanked out there for a second. That was interesting.
I said longer in.
Yeah, I get it.
Taking them out of my life.
Yeah, you said that, the phone cut out. So I don't think it's a bad idea. You're very independent. You've got a bunch of Sagittarius and Aquarius in your chart. And Jupiter crossing your Mars is an opportunity for you to kind of reclaim what home means for you. So don't despair. You never know what the universe has in store for you or can help you with, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jill, for calling in.
Thank you. You're very, very interesting.
Well, thank you, Jill. I appreciate that. So are you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Let's try 208 again.
What home means for you. So
hello?
Don't despair. You never know what the universe.
I hate listening to myself sometimes. So the 208 person's listening. Okay, in the midst of this crazy Mercury retrograde, I've got 30 minutes left in the show. And if you want a reading, here's the number: 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. Hey, if you want to call in and give me a heads up on the audio situation, that would be cool too, because I don't necessarily see it or experience it in real time. Now, here's somebody calling in. Let's find out what they're about. Hello
Hi.
there.
Hello there.
Hi.
I love the way you do the astrology.
Oh, thank you.
You're very astute.
What's your name?
Eileen.
Hi, Eileen. Where
I
you?
talked to you a couple of years ago. Oh, hold on. Let me turn this off. Where am I coming from?
You calling? Yeah, we have. Well, where are you coming from, and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Florida.
Florida. Okay. So, can you hear me okay now on the Blog Talk Radio Network?
Yeah, I just turned you on, and I heard you speaking to that other lady.
Okay.
And then you said, and then I figured Spirit's telling me to call you, and I'm calling you.
All right. So, well, let's do a reading for you then.
Thank you.
Let's open up a chart for you. Eileen, let's see. No, it's you. Jill has been on before.
A couple of years ago.
You called a couple of years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. Let's do a little chartage for you here. Let's do this. Here we go. We got that. And we're in the data banks. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and give me your birthday?
June 28, 51.
June 28, 51. Belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And what time was that?
2:50 a.m. New York City.
2:50 a.m. New York City. And let's go. Let's put that in there. New York City. Here we go. And all right. So I have you as a Taurus rising.
Yeah.
And Cancer Sun, stellium in Cancer, second house. Well, actually, stellium of Gemini and Cancer in the second house. Let's see, what's Mars. Yeah, there's Mars there. Okay, where do you want to go?
I want to talk about my Pluto opposite Mercury Uranus, coming from the 9th house into the 8th house, all those changes. And my residence changed, and I was told I'm going to be doing another major explosion of advancement in the next 3 months. Some big changes are supposed to be coming up, but I can't see it. I don't know what's happening. Maybe you can see it for me.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get from you is, somebody told you that you're going to have a residence change?
Yeah, I just did a residence change.
Oh, you
I
just
sold
did
a property, and I just did a residence change, and now they're telling me that some new person's coming into my relationship factor. I'm almost exited with one, and then my soul, my real twin flame is supposed to be nearby enough to advance me to the next level of my purpose on the planet.
Okay, well, let's just look at the placement of Pluto in your chart, all right? So Pluto has been in your 8th house, and it's a very, congratulations, you've survived the Pluto 8th house transit, by the way. And that's not always easy.
I know.
Not always easy. So you've gone through the depths of the shamanic transit of Pluto in that house. And as it comes out of your 8th house and into your 9th house, there is a brand new level of awareness that accompanies that shift from one house to the other. And it gives you a much greater capacity to see into the future, okay? Because Capricorn, one of the things that people don't understand about Capricorn is that Capricorn is very visionary. Capricorn is all about the future. It may not necessarily be about the type of future that we want at times, but it is invested in the future. It's always looking ahead. Cancer's looking back, Capricorn's looking ahead. And when we put it up in the 9th house, where Pluto and Capricorn in the 9th house, it's, the 9th house to me is like the roof of the world for the chart, really. Especially, when I think of like the midheaven, on the 9th house side, I think of Tibet. It's like right up there. It's right near the top. It's it's the upper room of the planet. And so to me, what the Pluto transit down the 9th house represents is an increased ability for you to see farther, deeper, and greater into your future, into the world's future, wherever you want to focus that aspect. And this is, to me, a great opening. Now, Pluto does go back to 9 degrees, which is what you're talking about. That's the Pluto-Mercury opposition. That's the Pluto-Uranus opposition. And the potential for that is what I would see as a psychic opening, that something occurs that cracks you open, that takes you to a place where you can really project out into the future. Let me just share with you something that happened to me in my life a long time ago. I went through a change in my early 20s that was kind of profound, really profound. And I was in college at that time, and I remember doing a course in Romanticism with Blake and Wordsworth and Shelley and all this stuff. And the teacher and the subject matter had been challenging for me to some extent prior to the final in this class. But what happened was that I was going through this kind of major spiritual transformation while I was in school, and the final came up as I was really starting to unlock some doors. And so the test came in, and there was this question on the final, and it was about sort of this narrative of the Romantic era. And then what I did is it immediately, like, this door swung open, and I saw the Romantic era as it relates to Blake's concept of innocence, experience, and imagination. And I charted the arc of the poets of that era with, Shelley and Byron as being the poets of experience, with Keats approaching the realm of imagination, so I saw it in its kind of historical arc. And that's when I realized that all of a sudden I was seeing the world differently. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. It's like all of a sudden things click, and your ability to crack open and view the world on very different terms takes place. Now, that doesn't always make it easier, by the way. It can make it more challenging too, because when that happens, you can't really be in. Now, I'm just talking about a stupid final in school, but there are greater ramifications of this. And when this psychic opening does occur, it makes it a little more challenging to be kind of in the day-to-day world. So, but this is powerful. This opposition can be very powerful. Now, you're very psychic. You've got that. You've got the triple conjunction, and flashes of insight. The challenge for you, obviously, would be grounding that with the square to Neptune and the square to Jupiter. But if you take that out, right? If you take that out, that Pluto opposition out, it's almost like it's splitting that T-square right down the middle and letting you get right to the heart of this. So part of this also, too, is about you grounding. One of the things that you might want to do with Pluto in your ninth house is, because the ninth house represents religion. Religion gets a bad rap in a lot of ways, but there are things that you can learn from it. You can learn from certain aspects of various religions. You can find, these eternal truths that sort of wind through some of them. Not all of them, but some of them. So what you might do is you might want to commence a study of cross-cultural religions or cross-cultural spiritual traditions that may be indigenous. On Friday, my guest is going to be Shauna Home, who wrote a book called Love and Spirit Medicine, and she's very involved in sort of Mayan shamanism and native traditions. So that's another potential aspect for you, but it's kind of more involved in trying to find links to ground, this crack, this opening that I think is on its way for you. And as far as your twin flame goes, I would wait for that to play out until Saturn gets into my seventh house, and that's at the beginning of next year, right?
Okay.
When Saturn gets into your seventh house at 24 degrees, that's going to be very interesting for you. So the thing with twin flames and soulmates, I don't know. I'm not the best person to talk to you about these things. Only because, well, no, the reason why I say that is because I have had connections with people that have felt like soulmate connections, and they completely explode in a blaze of glory, and with people retreating back into their own lives. And I think, and in fact, Shona talks about this in her book, and I'm not saying this is the way it is with twin flames, but soulmates, they're not easy. They're there for growth. And hopefully, the Saturn in Scorpio in your seventh house, it's somebody that, you could connect with and work with, because I think that's ultimately what twin flames do. They work together. Yep.
That's what I'm coming up to. I know that's what I'm being prepared for. And I have been with many soulmates, and I know when I get right into the beginning of it what my purpose and my contract has been with those people, and I know when it's over and how they all separate right on schedule. And as far as the shamanistic stuff and all of that, I'm a painter. I'm an artist, so I'm working in the physical world, but I'm also at 4 fingers up in heaven constantly, or I should say 2% is down here, and the rest is in the heavens channeling information constantly. Well, but I'm really balanced. That Taurus really helps me. So I'm very grounded. I work in the physical world really well, and I'm just ready for the next shift. And that Pluto in the ninth house is going to be so exciting for me.
Well,
I'm ready for it.
Will be. Also, you cannot underestimate Uranus hitting your Jupiter next year. That's going to be super intense. Because you got Jupiter in the 12th house, right?
Yeah.
So
that's going to be a lot more traveling for me, and seeing all the sacred sites and things like that are going to start coming in.
That'll be a lightning bolt in your life. So
I know.
Yeah, well, listen, stay in touch with us and let us know how it's going. And if you run across your twin flame,
I will. I will shout it from the rooftops.
There's a woman I had on the show not too long ago. Her name is LaFay Farrar, and she just wrote a book about twin flames. You may want to look her up. She's a very nice lady. She's one of my Facebook friends, LaFay Farrar, and her book is out now, so that might interest you.
L-A-F-E-Y?
L-A-F-A-Y-E, LaFay, and Farrar, F-A-R-R-A-R, LaFay Farrar. And the audio transcript or the podcast is still available through this network, so you can listen to it as well.
So you're on Facebook under your name?
I am.
Okay. I'll check you out, and then if I have the spelling wrong for her, I'll look her up.
Yeah, she's a Facebook friend.
F-A-R-A-R, far and far.
F-A-R-R-A-R.
Oh, okay, F-A-R-R-A-R, got it.
Yeah, and LaFay, L-A-F-A-Y-E.
Y-E.
Yeah, okay.
So where's the podcast? On your site?
No, you can just go through Blog Talk and go to my page here, and you can type in like LaFay Farrar. You could find it. It's easy.
Okay, great.
All right.
One more question.
Okay.
When is the next solstice? I always have like a gathering of friends come together.
The next solstice. Yeah, that would be the winter solstice, right? I mean, that would be in the 22nd or 23rd. It floats a little bit of December.
Really? That far away?
Yeah. We just had one.
In May,
You could have an equinox party. That's different.
Right. I just had one. I had a spring equinox.
Right.
I had the summer solstice here, but I'm talking about equinox. Wait, yeah. There's 2 and 2, right? Equinox.
Right. The next equinox is in September.
That's what I want to know.
The 22nd or 23rd, again, depending upon, where it floats, and then the solstice would be in December 22nd, 23rd. Sometimes the 21st, depending.
Okay, super.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for your time and your knowledge.
Thanks for calling in. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
All right. Who do we want to talk to next? How about 775? 847. Hello there.
Hi, this is Jill. I'm just listening, but I do want to comment. Any kind of soul-mate connection has blown up on me also.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think they're meant to be forever. That's my sense.
Right. I've had the same thing, the explosion at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for
All right. Thank you.
On that. Yep. Hello there.
Hi.
Hi.
The only reason why I didn't hit 1 is because I didn't know if you had enough time.
Oh, we got time. We got 18 minutes.
All right.
Yep. What's your name?
Roz.
Roz, have you been on here before?
No.
Really? You sound familiar.
This is my first time calling the show because normally I'm at work when your show comes on, so I miss it every single time. Every day of my life I miss it. So today I just happened. It's funny because last night I was listening to one of your shows about Mercury Retrograde. And today I just happened to see your picture on here, and I was like, hey, that's the dude from last night.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was meant to be, I guess, huh?
Probably so.
When's your birthday?
It's 7/11/69. I'm going to grab a pen and a piece of paper because it seems like you got a lot of good insight on stuff.
And what time were you born, Roz?
7:34 a.m.
All right. And where was that?
Shreveport, Louisiana.
That's where my father was born.
Really?
Yep. Shreveport, Louisiana. There it is. That's where James Burns, who comes on my Friday show every now and then, that's where he lives too.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
He lives now?
What's that?
He lives there now?
He does. He has a podcast too. It's a little bit different than mine, but he's there. And I think I saw some relatives there. And I know that I lost some money at the Harrah's Riverboat Casino there too.
Of course you did. Everybody donates when they go to the casino.
Apparently so. All right. I got your chart lined up here. So Leo rising, right?
Mhm.
And Sun in Cancer and Moon in Gemini. Okay, so where do you want to go with your experience here today?
Let's start with Jupiter in Cancer.
Okay.
According to my chart, I don't know. I mean, you know what? I don't know. I know I'm a bunch of sevens. I don't know. I'm just ready to see what you pull out of that. I don't know. We can go anywhere with it. I don't care.
Well, one of the things that I'm noticing about your chart is that you have an unusual amount of quintiles with your Sun to a number of planets. So your Sun quintiles Jupiter, it quintiles Saturn, and it quintiles Uranus. And a quintile is kind of like it's a gift in the chart. It's a really interesting aspect, and I've never seen that many quintiles with the Sun. You've got a biquintile with Saturn and Uranus, a biquintile with Mercury and Mars. But focusing on the Sun, you've got a sextile to Pluto, you've got a trine to Neptune, you've got a trine to the true node. You're a big personality, Roz. I mean, with the Sun, all those aspects. How do you not have your own like TV talk show or something?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I never knew which was a good direction to go in.
Well, you know, I mean, the challenge for you is that your Sun is in the 12th house, and it doesn't necessarily bode well for people like seeing you and recognizing you and understanding you, because the 12th house Sun is like a Pisces Sun, and it tends to be behind the scenes a lot. And if we, in our culture, we're kind of set up to be validated by the world around us, right? Like if it's our peer group, we see ourselves as being accepted by that peer group. If it's by what we own, we are accepted by our material possessions. If it's in a church, we're accepted by if we're a good person or we attend a lot. You know what I mean? So we're dependent upon the outside world to validate who we are. But with a Sun in the 12th house, that type of external validation isn't always commensurate or equal to who you are or what you're about. So a lot of times people with a 12th house Sun go through their lifetime trying to understand who they are and what their role is in this world, because they don't always see the impact that they have on other people or on the world around them. It's a kind of a tricky piece, right? So with Jupiter in Cancer, what will happen is, very shortly, by the way, it will conjunct your natal Mercury in the 12th house. So Jupiter is doing an arc through your 12th house, which means that there are blessings for you by going within, blessings for you by building your faith, blessings for you by affirming and decreeing that you have everything that you need in life and more, and living your life from that place going forward. That's what Jupiter on Cancer will do. Now, Mercury, Jupiter and Cancer on your Mercury will do. Now, your Mercury does square your natal Uranus, so that's kind of interesting. If you begin to live from this point forward with that kind of affirmation in your life, be aware of the fact that it can bring some very interesting things very quickly into your life as well. But as the summer months go on and we get into like September and October, November, and getting closer to December, fall and winter, Jupiter gets closer to your Sun. And that is good for you because it allows you to radiate and emanate out into the world, sort of the essence and the quality of who you are. There can be no mistaking, people seeing you, recognizing you, accepting you, welcoming you in. Doors open for you during this time over the course of the next 4 to 5 months. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just be you, just radiate, just be confident, live in faith, be happy, be optimistic, think that the best is going to happen to you and come to you, and trust me, it will. And doors are just going to open to you. You don't have to do a thing.
Really? And that's in the next 4 to 5 months? That's
right. That's because Jupiter in the 12th house conjuncting the natal sun is like doing without doing. It's very Taoist, It's not like if, let's say Jupiter was in your let's say your sun was in your 10th house, right? And the 10th house being the house of career, vocation, public standing in the world, and so on. You would want to be aware of the fact that Jupiter was going to cross your sun, so you'd want to kind of work hard, get your ducks in a row, put your best foot forward, you kind of ride a wave of success with a project, and and then maybe even look to expand what you do, or maybe even look for another job. I mean, that would be one of the ways that you would sort of prime that pump. It would be kind of an active, you take an active role in some ways, but it would be related to your career and what you're doing. But with the 12th house,
if it was in the 10th house. Okay, go ahead.
House, nothing like that at all. 12th house is all about setting the intention. It's all about dropping down into the depth and the core of who you are. And with Jupiter, it's not that hard. All you have to, I don't usually go into like airy-fairy or fluffy stuff, but when it's applicable, and in this case it is, it's all about faith, and it's all about just knowing that the best things, the most miraculous things, the most magical things are going to happen to you, because they will. You have
I cannot wait.
Yes.
I keep waking up every morning with this. I don't know, and not like you said. I'm not really fairy type of person, but I keep waking up for almost the last 2 or 3 weeks now with the feeling that something is about to happen. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is. I can feel it. It's fairyly. I mean, I don't even know what the word. I don't even know if that's a real word. You know what I mean? But it's fairy. It's like getting sprinkled with feel like I'm sprinkled with some kind of fairy dust or stuff. And believe me, I'm not into all that. Really
right.
Not.
No, so you're already picking up on this. You're already picking up on the feeling and the resonance, right? And you're already starting.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just stay with it, and look, what's the harm in waking up and staying with it and believing it? It's not going to hurt anybody, right?
That's true. Yeah, exactly. No one else can feel it. Right.
That's right. And when something good happens, or something interesting and miraculous happens, just praise God and say, thank you very much. I appreciate this.
I know.
Say, and be willing to pass it on. Be willing to pass a little magic on to other people too, right? And this is
absolutely.
This is how it works. So you're going to get, you've got this, coming at you here for really about another 8 to 9 months. You can really
wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the other thing too is when Jupiter comes into Leo and it moves into your first house, that's really an explosion for you with your personality and your verve and your charm and your color and your character. And
I'll be a good time. Let me ask you a question. I'm not really a show-off. Well, I guess I am, so I'm not even going to say that. Let me ask you a question. Exactly. Why even say that? Do you think now would be a good time to learn Spanish?
To learn
because
what?
Because I've had so much problem, and I want to learn this language because that seems to be the type of people that I'm working with more and more.
Spanish?
Okay.
Sure.
Right. It's not that that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. But I can't communicate with them. I mean, I can communicate with them in English, but it seems like they're missing something and I'm missing something too. I don't want to work too hard. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if we look at your chart, you've got Jupiter and Uranus in the third house, which are great for learning languages, the third house, and also Venus in Gemini and Moon in Gemini in the 11th house, which is, again, kind of a language-based house. And people from different cultures and other societies. There's a program called Rosetta Stone. Do you know that program?
I got it. It does nothing for me. Nothing. It won't let me get past. I'm gonna say it. I don't care who's listening. It won't let me get past one word. I've been stuck on this one word for almost. Oh my God, it's been so long. Okay, I've been stuck right there, and I was learning Spanish pretty good. I was on a good roll until I got this word. I can't even say the word. It's Mahia.
Mahia.
It's an adult, mature female. It's Mahia. Mujer. I can't say the word. It won't let me get past Mujer. So I'm stuck right there, and I've been stuck there, and I'm just stuck. So I can't say the word. I just can't say.
Why don't you plug the program in right now, and I'll say it for you? How's that?
That's a good idea.
Here's what I'll do. Ready? Here's what I'll do. I'll say it right now, really slowly, and you can play the podcast back. Ready? Here we go.
Okay.
Into your Rosetta Stone. Mujer.
Okay. One more time. Say it again.
Mujer. Mujer. Right? So now you can play that back to your Rosetta Stone. I'm going to let you get.
You sound just like the guy too. Okay. Perfect. I love it.
That's funny.
Yes, I love it. Okay, now what about? Not that I have any problems in this area. Put that out there, but I'm just thinking, what is going on with love and romance type of stuff in my chart?
What's love got to do with it?
Like I never have any problems.
Well, why do you need to look at it if you never have any problems?
Just to see what's going on. Just to see if it's
your fifth house is Sagittarius. Your seventh house is Aquarius. You need to be somebody that's a little on the free-spirited side, give you some space, have a sense of adventure. There's no major real transits happening in those houses for you right now. So I don't really necessarily see anything significant taking place in those realms. So if I did, I'd definitely talk to you about it for sure. But there's nothing going on. Yeah.
That's what I think. Everything's always smooth, so that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Well, all right, Roz. Well, thank you for calling in.
Thank you so much. Thank
and
you.
Listen, if you ever get bored with your life, you should go down. You should go down to your local cable TV station where they do the community access cable TV, and you should start your own local cable TV community access talk show. That's what I think.
Really?
Yes.
Own local cable TV talk show.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. I think you'd be very good.
Are you serious? Or are you just making this up?
I'm serious. I'm telling you. I wouldn't tell you this if I didn't believe in you, Roz.
But I'm shy.
Yeah, that's right. You need a co-host. If you have a co-host, you'll be fine.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, Venus in Gemini, Moon in Gemini. You need a co-host. 11th house. You'd be great. You've got all these great quintiles to your sun. You need to bring that out into your life.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see what happens.
Thanks for calling in, Roz.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and with that, we have reached the end of the show. And I know that there's Lenise on there and the 916. I'll be back next week. You can always come to my website, robertphoenix.com. You can always get a reading. That's how I make my living, doing readings, just like I do here on the show, robertphoenix.com. Sorry about the snafus with the sound, but these things happen, and we're going to get them squared away for good, forever, soon. So use your head to discern what's real, your heart say what's possible. I'll be back on Friday with Shona Home, the author of Love and Spirit Medicine, my good friend Ken Warren, and he and I will be talking about Charles Farini, and of course, your friend of mine, the Cosmic Hooker. Don't miss Friday's show. Have a great 4th of July. God bless America. I'll see you then.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.